there, SMITE fans. Welcome to Dev Talk. My name is Hi-Res Bart. That gentleman to my left is Hi-Res Kevin, or KP, as I will be calling him during the show. Kevin is a god designer here at Hi-Res. You would have seen him if you were around for the Cabrakan Dev Talk. And did you do the last one?
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
You did do it, didn't you?
I did do Sylvanas.
Mr. Guardian. Yeah. You did the Sylvanas Dev Talk as well. So Kevin's last gods, Cabrakan, Sylvanas. Prior to that, you did 2 Guardians, and then right before that, who did you do?
I did Rom.
Rom, yeah. Old Rom. But this is, of course, the next god, as you can see there, the lovely Kevin Powell as your god designer. The next god that we're going to be talking about today is Nox. So Nox is, in general, lore-wise, I'll set it up. I'll put the ball on the tee and let Kevin knock out the home run. But Nox is kind of the primordial goddess of darkness. So similar to Kronos in SMITE, where he is quite literally time.
Yeah.
Nox is quite literally the night.
The night, yeah.
So, kind of, is there anything other intricacies to her lore that kind of are encapsulated here? I mean, I know some of her kids are like in the game and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of crossover, you know, between Greek and Roman and everything.
Yeah.
So you can sort of draw those comparisons. But yeah, it's like she's usually depicted holding 2 babies, one black and one white, and it's death and sleep. And so yeah, it's some really cool stuff in her lore that we kind of take our we kind of take and do some cool things with sort of around her kit and everything.
Right on. So you have it's pretty obvious, right, what like Nox thematically is going to be like, right? I mean, she is night. So in my mind, and I haven't seen much of Nox, it's black effects, and she's probably in a black silhouette at least. She's kind of like this nighttime goddess, maybe some purple thrown in there.
Yeah.
Now, how much is there, like, how much of the like kind of what's evoked by her look and feel, like, was it we have moon goddesses a lot. This is really like the first like night one. So like, what are the kind of differences there?
So trying to play off of sort of night, darkness, shadows, and everything. It was just really interesting because it's like, how do you portray something that's just like supposed to be black, like,
right? It's supposed to be the absence of light, right?
Yeah. So it's just really interesting, sort of how our effects artists especially sort of took the ideas around what we wanted to do with some of our skills and sort of portrayed it in the game, because with all of our gods we try and make sure their effects and their abilities look fairly different, so you can tell what's going on. And so they just took it and ran with it and did some really awesome stuff.
So let's kind of go through just generally like her kind of look and how that fell out of this. So you guys have already seen some of the concept of her, so let's go ahead and take a look at the god concept card here. And was this a highly iterated kind of concept? Like, usually, or rather, I won't describe it, I'll let you describe it. Like, take us through the process of, like, concepting. And, like, where did we get to land up with what you see on the left side of your screen?
Okay. Well, I don't do the concepting, but I know a bit of the process. What happened was, there's several iterations of what the god may or may not look like. And so I saw some of the earlier ones, and it changed up a good bit from the earlier concepts, but we decided to choose this one as the final one. And in her lore and everything, she's depicted as having like a black veil and everything, lots of dark clothing. And so they just sort of took that and extrapolated upon it.
What are the kind of like you can see like the ravens on her shoulders, and kind of a lot of this imagery about like the night, and kind of the candelabra, and even her sash is a little bit like it has kind of the artistic flair to it, is a little bit more sinister than what you'd see kind of normally. But like what I feel like I saw like early concepts of her where she looked like almost like a succubus, or like had like wings and stuff. So how do you refine kind of that look? Can you talk about that?
Well, it's also, we kind of go into how we want to, poise the character themselves as like, their personality, how we communicate them to the player, basically. And so we wanted her to feel more regal and more elegant, since she is one of these sort of primordial beings, right? She's kind of this like, I've been here for a long time. A lot of, very powerful deities are afraid of her, and so it's like we kind of wanted to go with this, you know, sort of very regal and very sure of herself. She just, you know, when she comes into the room, right, it's just like, oh wow, that's, you know, that's Nox. Like
I mean, I'll draw a comparison here that she looks a little bit like a female Hades in terms of like silhouette. Now, like, was that something that you? I mean, that's not like some kind of crazy thing that I'm extrapolating out of this. It is what it is, right? And like during that development process, when you're concepting the god and you're looking at the model and everything, like, was that something that you were like, oh, awesome? It looks like kind of like, you know, a more female version of a god that is very associated with night and death. Yeah. Or was it like, was that a challenge, or was that like a boon to the way she came out, do you think?
I think it's almost a double-edged sword in that respect. It's like, yeah, you know, when you see something really familiar, just like, oh, okay, cool, I can get with that. Like, I understand that. That's something I've known. But also, you know, with a game where it's like you want to differentiate every single god, it gets to be a sort of difficult task to, you know, differentiate her from, you know, some gods she may look similar to. And so
the cowl, very evocative of like what Nemesis looks like, and her kind of like skirt silhouette look a little bit like Hades kind of in the game, but like let's take a look actually at her god card, or I'm sorry, the rotation. So you guys, we call this a turntable internally. I don't know what you guys call it in Twitch chat, but it's basically the 360-degree look at the actual in-game model. And you can see that she does differ subtly, obviously, from the concept, as they all do. But I mean, kind of looking at that 3/4 view there. I mean, what kind of drew you to some of the style elements you see here, like kind of like the fishnet gloves, and it looks very like funeral-esque.
Yeah.
Right, like the veil and the fishnet and those types of things.
Well, I mean, that was all our, you know, our character art and concepting team, and, you know, Brian, he just kills it every time, and
he does.
And Trevor, one of our character artists, he's the one that did the model, and he just knocked it out of the park, really. Like, it looks awesome. And so, you know, basically them, you know, just pretty much putting out the best work they can, they always manage to upstage
They always manage
themselves.
to do pretty well.
Yeah.
But like looking at it, like, are those like kind of like stars almost in her like gown? Is that what that's supposed to be?
I believe so. It's just like, you know, she is the night and everything, and also, you know, you have the stars and everything. So it's there's just a lot of different elements of the night that are sort of ingrained in her overall look. Yeah. You know, same thing with the night ravens and everything, you know, on her shoulders. And so it's just like bringing all that together into this design, and it looks really awesome and unique for her. And I think they did an awesome job.
They did, and you can see kind of in this even some of the design elements that are present in Thanatos and Nemesis. Obviously, we're kind of going across pantheons here, but you know, had Greek and Roman been the same thing, right? This character Nox would be called Nyx over in the Greek side of things, and would be the mother of Thanatos and Nemesis. You can see some of that design and feel like echoed through where she ended up here. Now, in kit, maybe not so much, but certainly look and feel. We will be moving into the game here in just a second, guys. But before we do that, let's take a look at her Finalized God Art. I believe this is her card. Haven't seen this one yet. Have you seen it?
I actually have not. This is
okay. So you're going to see it here live with us, guys. And there it is. Nox, the goddess, primordial goddess of the night. There is her loading screen card. She looks like a frigid woman, doesn't she?
Very cold.
Yeah, that headpiece is so cool, man. So
cold
cool
and
to me.
Uncaring.
Let's Thomas may be mad at me, so I'll go ahead and skip the landing page screen for now. But let's take her into the test map and have a run around. Huh?
I said Thomas gonna get you.
Yeah, Thomas gonna be mad at me if I show that. So I'll wait until we get into it here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and grab her. Okay. Let's take a look at Nox in game here, and we'll go through her abilities a bit. You can see here she is. Obviously, she will have a recolor skin. I doubt it's in the game package right now, so we'll wait on that one. But there she is, and we'll be taking her into a map where there is nothing else but her, and we'll be taking a look at her abilities and talking through them in general terms. First thing that sticks out to me here, I'll start talking so you can hear her voice a little bit, but is the candelabra. Quite clearly is her passive.
Yes.
And is activated by something. Oh, man, look at that in hand. So she's throwing like one-hand night balls at people.
Yes.
Very cool. So let's go through her abilities. Number 1. Shadow Barrier is the name of this ability. You can see it's upgraded there. So activating this ability appears to be some manner of shield. So kind of talk us through this ability a little bit.
Okay. So yeah, this her first ability is in fact a shield that is activated for a very short amount of time. And I really like the sort of reactionary play that comes out of abilities like this. And basically what it does is you activate it. It's up for a short amount of time, and during that time, if you're hit with a harmful ability, it will mitigate a certain percentage of that damage.
That is to say, abilities, right? Not in hands, not modified in hands. So something like Rom's Rom's arrows.
Mm-hmm.
Would that trigger it?
Yes, it would trigger it, since that's part of the ability for him. But yeah.
So good rule of thumb is if you see orange numbers,
yes,
that means that you've taken ability damage in Smite, and so that would trigger the shield.
Mm-hmm.
So and the shield mitigates ability damage, right?
Yes.
And my understanding of it is that it goes from some to almost 100%.
Yeah.
It's not full, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it gets pretty good.
So let's go ahead and
and also, if there's a channeled ability or a dot, it'll mitigate the first tick of that damage on you.
Right. So if you get a Jean-Qui card or whatnot.
Yeah, you still take sustained damage if somebody's channeling on you. So it won't block, a full ability.
So her abilities are there's the Raven, and then there's the Night Terror as the ultimate there. And we'll go and rank up Shadow Barrier again. So her 1 is the shield. Her 2 appears to be some kind of line target.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so that's...
Oh, neat. She sends out the Raven.
Yeah. So it's
fast.
It's called Nightfall Raven. Basically, it's it's a line target that silences.
Okay.
For a short amount of time, and it also puts a mark on you. So once you hit them, it puts a mark on them for 5 seconds, and they're quote unquote shrouded in darkness.
Right, which is what that effect is you see there on the old Odin.
Yeah.
And then her 3. This ability is a circle attack, it looks like here.
Mm-hmm.
That deals damage. Okay, so it actually has some time before it detonates, it looks like.
Yes.
There. And this ability is very short cooldown, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's actually take a look at kind of what that is. So.
Yeah, it's really short.
Really short. So that 4-second cooldown.
Yeah, 3 or 4 seconds.
3 or 4 second cooldown.
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah, you see in the corner there, all art and effects are not, of course, final, but so there's an interaction between these abilities, right?
Yeah.
So I silence him, he's marked, and then while he's marked, I can use... Now, is it all of my abilities interact with the mark, or just my 3?
Just your 3.
Okay, so I'll go and, seal the deal with poor Odin there. He'll respawn here in just a second, but we'll take a look at kind of the difference between... As you see, okay, yeah, just dealing additional damage. You saw a second number there behind it, so that's pretty strong.
So
there.
if they are marked by your second ability, the third ability does extra damage.
Okay, right, and so it's not additional damage on the 3. It is actually a secondary damage source.
Yeah.
So she's actually really good against other Noxes, right? She can do damage twice in the single. And then our ultimate is it's a short targeter. It looks like here, sitting about what is it, about 35 feet, and it looks like, okay, so I've actually linked now to the Odin.
Yes.
So now, what are some of the benefits that I get from being linked to this Odin?
Okay, so while you are linked to an enemy god, basically what it does is when you're linked to an enemy god, anytime they cast an ability, they take damage.
Okay. So you won't see much of it actually in action here, but she just basically says, I deal damage to you if you cast this target here.
Right.
Now, does she get any benefit for being linked to someone?
Yes. Also, when they cast an ability, it shortens the cooldowns of her other ability.
Ah, so it's kind of like she's a mage killer, it seems like.
Yeah.
So now that we've kind of seen her kit, and like I can make some assumptions about where she fits, but generally speaking, what's the kind of direction for this character, right? I mean, you got to think about design as a little bit of a, you're steering a ship. It takes a little while. It takes a long time to turn it.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about man hours that have gone into making things. So you can't just 180 or 90-degree turn on it, right? It's a shift. So kind of where did she start? Where did she shift? And what was the kind of theme from a gameplay perspective that we were trying to maintain?
Right. Well, really, I wanted her to be sort of like a anti-mage sort of... I wanted her to be able to control the tempo of a fight, especially if she's going up against other mages that have very short cooldowns and like to, pretty much use a lot of abilities. And so, pretty much, I just wanted her to be able to match up against, like a Hebo, and be able to, do fairly well in the mid lane or, solo.
So she has the shield that's very good against abilities.
Yeah.
She has the link that's very good against abilities. And I know based on our conversation that she has her passive also, it kind of lends into that playstyle as well. So she's very much an anti-caster. And a harasser, it looks like. I mean, a very short cooldown spell. So she kind of wants... Now, how does this ability her ultimate, for example, interact with something like Wing Gust? Is that it fires the ability one time, you take the damage once, or is it each Wing Gust?
It's for the first cast of the ability. So when they hit that button and they cast that ability, it deals damage. For channeled abilities, it won't deal damage multiple times. It'll only happen on the first cast of that ability.
Gotcha. So if something like a Plague of Locusts from Anubis will only on the actual implementation of the ability deal the damage.
Yeah.
Is the damage scaled based on anything with the ability, or is it just flat based on her ultimate and magical power?
It's scaled based on her ability.
Okay. So it's not that the more mana the thing costs, the more damage to take or anything like that. It is very much her. So, I mean, generally speaking, you're just expecting high damage builds out of her? Or do you think that there's kind of the tankiness style would work? Or do you think that the one is effective enough to not build tanky?
I think she could go either way with this with her kit. If you build more tanky, she can sort of control the tempo of a battle a lot more, since she's able to zone people out. She's able to pop this ultimate on people that may be spamming their abilities. It's like, especially if you hit somebody right before they dump out their abilities, right?
Like, what about like Freya?
Yeah.
Like, if you ult Freya and she has Pulse or Radiate activated, each shot is going to do damage to Freya, yeah?
No, only when she
just the activations of the abilities.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So same thing with Rom, right? Only when he toggles on shooting the arrows will.
Yeah.
So she's also quite good against stance switchers then.
Yeah. So Hell.
So it's actually switching stances will deal damage.
Right.
If you're linked.
It will deal damage. So yeah, especially stance switchers. And so yeah, you're really gonna want to sort of decide when to use your abilities a lot better around her, because a lot of her kit is based around sort of controlling when you use your abilities. So
yeah, I mean, I can. Yeah. It seems like. Breastplate of Valor, kind of physical reduction, some, physical mitigation.
Need a lot of that.
And some magical rage. I mean, obviously this kit's downside is the fact that she doesn't have any answer to physical damage.
No.
She doesn't have any hard CC outside of a silence,
right,
which is not going to be great against an in-hander anyway. And she has a spell shield, basically.
Yeah. She also doesn't have any mobility.
Right, no mobility.
Yeah.
And no sustain.
She does have a bit of sustain.
Okay, so there is some there.
I mean, with her passive.
Right. But even still, not HP.
Right.
Maybe she'll get some mana back and has some mana efficiency, perhaps, but she's not going to be getting HP back. She has no way to heal herself. There's no way to really stop you from doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
Seems like a candidate for like a combat blink and a little bit of tankiness, maybe, and some damage dealing. It looks like a very interesting character. Definitely excited to see how this one goes, and obviously the effects are just great. Chuck killed that, and the character model is wonderful. The team definitely did well there. Well, that pretty much does it for us, guys. Looking at it, we got about 10 minutes left. We generally like to open this up to the chat. If you guys have any questions, please preface them with a kind of Q and a colon and then your question so that we can pick them out of the mess. But let's talk quickly, though, in generally the same theme of the Reaping, which is our event this weekend, Part 2, the Revengeing. You get free gems this weekend, double XP in favor and worshippers. First one of the day earns exclusive Cemetery Awaits icon. So get your sweet Halloween swag as well as some gems for winning games, double XP in favor and worshippers all this weekend, going through until Sunday, October 26th. Let's take a look. The passive guys, you can tune in tomorrow for the whole patch notes and find out what our passive is. We do like to keep that one close to the chest. So if you can find a way to ask a question that's not passive question mark, we will try to answer that. We will not talk about it. Does her ult do damage if they have Soul Reaver? So it's based on ability cast, right? Not like, does it work against ability items?
No. It's only when a god casts their own abilities. So not actives, anything like that.
Will her 2 silence multiple targets?
Yes.
So it's a piercing line. Okay. I'll ask a question here. What do you think lane clear wise?
She is going to be very good at lane clear.
Okay, so the 2 does a reasonable amount of damage then. And the 3.
Comboed with the 3. The 2 does a reasonable amount of damage, but comboing the 2 with the 3 is really where her lane clear shines.
Have you written good taunts with Thanatos and Nemesis? Is there god chatter banter there?
Yes, I think there's some jokes in there too. You guys will appreciate.
That's actually done by Hi-Res Kama mostly on that, guys.
Usually, the designer that designs that god writes the script for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All the VGS commands then. Does her 3 go over walls? Yeah, it doesn't require line of sight. It's a ground target. Solo lane or mid lane?
We've played around with her in both positions, and she's done pretty good in solo and mid lane, at least in the internal play tests. So I'd say we just wait till she's out, try her out.
Does her ultimate deal any damage by itself?
Yes, on the initial hit.
Okay, so the initial hit will deal some damage then.
Yes.
The Omega, one of the players from Cognitive, is asking, do you think she'll be available for regional or worlds? That depends on basically her relative balance state when she comes out. So yeah. we make those calls kind of in line with what we have.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So for example, Sylvanas still not available in ranked play.
Right.
Do you think she could jungle with her 3 on such short cooldown?
That is also a possibility. Definitely. I think she would be able to actually.
Now, what about
yeah?
Does Beads cleanse her ultimate?
No.
Okay. So no is the answer to that. Will she get a Trobe skin? That's a good question, Doc Matrix. Thanks for coming by, buddy. Good to see you. If X-Ball, okay, so what about toggles? Like Shibalanke's one. If he just sat there and spam toggled it, he would just die if he was linked, right?
Yeah, he would kill himself.
Any like big hilarious pitfalls that happened during the development of this god that are worth talking about?
Yeah. So the ultimate at one point was picking up more than just the god that you were linked to, their abilities for determining whether they were eligible for damage. And
so anybody that casted
so basically, if you ulted them in a team fight, they would just explode immediately, and that was hilarious. But
that's
yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah, that was.
Now, do you know anything about the interaction between like, let's say I've ulted Chang'e and she uses her 2. Does it how does it does it apply the damage to her but she's immune to damage so she wouldn't take it?
Yeah. So what happens is whenever you cast that ability, there's a short delay before you actually take the damage.
Gotcha. So she would be in the immune state.
Yeah.
Now, what about like casting the ultimate on? Does it have a leash range?
Yeah. So if you get out of range, I believe it's at 55 feet.
So 55 feet, just so you know, is basically the distance that you leap with a standard leap in Smite.
Yes. And there is a very short amount of time that you can get back in range for it, but once it reaches 55 feet, beyond that, there's a very short amount of time that if you get back within range of them, it'll lock.
Okay, so it's fairly similar to the Aphrodite link then.
Yeah.
In terms of like it'll blink to, and maybe not blink, but it'll indicate to you that you're leaving the range. You can close the distance again. It doesn't break on tweens, does it? Like if you blink or leap, it will stay connected to the character as long as they're within 55 feet?
Yeah, it'll stay connected to them as long as they're within the range.
What about casting the ultimate god that goes up, right? So if you casted it on a Thor while he was channeling, he would take the damage once the ability fired and he went up.
Yeah.
And then it would break probably when he came back down. Not dealing damage again. Looking for a couple other good things.
See this Gem of Isolation. Yes, that does proc on hit with her ultimate.
Can the ultimate go through walls?
I believe so.
The link can, but can the fire? You can fire it through walls?
I don't think you can fire it through walls.
Okay, but if they...
if you link them and they go around the corner.
Doesn't require line of sight. Yeah. What happens if 2 Noxes ult each other?
Hilarity will ensue.
Yeah, the game crashes.
Yeah.
Kind of in general terms, is their ultimate long or short cooldown?
It's a long cooldown.
Okay, long cooldown ultimate. Yeah. Can her ult hit multiple targets?
No.
In a line, so just the first one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Looking for one more good one here before we let you go, Kevin.
All right.
That's a good question. Does her shield have, and this is a yes or no question, I think, does her shield have additional effects besides damage mitigation?
No.
Well, there you go.
Not currently.
That's it for us today on Nox, ladies and gentlemen, from Dev Talk. Kevin is the designer for this god. We'll be back tomorrow with patch notes. Kelly and I will be going through her kit in full, in addition to everything else that's coming into this patch, the balance adjustments, and all the cool new features we got for you. So definitely want to tune in for that one tomorrow, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name has been HighResBart. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/HighResBart. That's Kevin. You can find him at HighResKP. But that does do it for Dev Talk, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be picking up the streams. I believe it is Kelly that will be streaming with you from the 5 to 7 o'clock hour. I lied. It is, of course, the art show coming up next with Enna, Gavin, and Kayla. Guys, don't go anywhere. Thank you, Kevin, for joining us.
Yep.
Thank you all for joining us as well, and we will see you tomorrow for Patch Notes. Much love.